Come and get started on a new mission, a new direction, a new intention. Welcome to 5.8G Alive at Connections 50 Plus. I am Terry-Ann Joseph Brathwaite.
And I am Jennifer Gibbons Joseph, catering to all your prospects in the third act of life.
Economic well-being, social gratification, personal fulfillment.
Join us on Wednesday at 6 p.m. on Connections 50 Plus Facebook page, YouTube channel,
and on Gael the Caribbean.
Hi, good evening everyone, and welcome to Connections 50 Plus 5.8G Alive. I am Jennifer Gibbons Joseph, one of the co-creators of Connections 50 Plus. And as usual with me on the show is my colleague.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. I am Terry-Ann Joseph Brathwaite, the other co-creator of Connections 50 Plus, bringing you 5.8G Alive. Jen, how are you going?
I'm going good.
Good.
I'm feeling very good. I'm just in a happy mood. What's the song? I'm just feeling good.
There are many songs you could use. Which beat you want? Soca, jazz, pop, disco, blues, gospel.
I was thinking I'm in a good mood. I'm in a good mood. Somebody was singing that.
You're in a good spirit. Take it from
In a good spirit.
Road. You're in a good spirit.
Right. That's the one. I'm in a good spirit. Yeah. That's the one. Yeah, I have, I'm approaching life with a lot of gratitude, Terry-Ann. And I am not allowing myself to, yes, all things will come up. But as things come up, and I always talk about the energy, anytime I feel myself going into that low energy, I find ways to, get myself back on track. And for me, doing that, you know what I love to do, and that's why I probably am still in this nice, happy mood. I love to socialize and go out with friends and celebrate.
Nice.
So on Sunday, I went out with some friends to celebrate one of my very good friends' birthday, and it was so much fun, you know? And we had photos, so we sending photos back and forth and laughing and reminiscing. And so, yeah. That keeps me on a nice high.
Yeah. It's good to have something to do. I think when you don't have something to do, you end up in a lot of trouble. And the trouble is usually a very negative, depressing kind of trouble. It's not like you have nothing to do and then you go and get good trouble. When you have nothing to do, you end up in bad trouble. So
maybe that's why I always looking for something to do. Whether it's in the garden, whatever. I think I'm always looking for things to do.
Yeah. No,
Okay.
the weekend was nice. I made a trip to Tortuga.
Oh yes.
To that church they visited, one of the sacred sites. It's quite nice. It was a beautiful sacred visit, but it was also a wonderful visit to a very, very gorgeous place, deep with history. And I'm a history buff, so I get excited when I go and see real history in a place. So I had a good weekend in that way, I cannot remember what I did on Saturday. I know I did something on Saturday, but I can't remember. But I had a great weekend, so it had to have been fun, wherever it was.
So both of us in that good spirit. Yep.
Yeah. Always there. Even when the spirits want to play bad, I still good. Oh gosh, no. But Jennifer, doesn't it seem, I'm just bringing a comment about we in good spirits, and we live in a country, we live in a region, we live in a world, and when you look up and look out at things that are happening in the world, because people refuse to just chill your little bums out and get into good spirits. We don't know where our podcast goes. And I know that there are many people living in parts of the world that it's very difficult to be in good spirits right now.
Yeah.
It's really hard. Whether it's a politician that caused it, whether it's an egomaniac that caused it, whether it is climate change that caused it,
Yeah.
whether it's just reckless individuals with no consideration for the rule of law that's causing it. We sit down and I always say that we are very happy. I am a very happy woman. And I say that unapologetically. And I know that there are many people who cannot say that, who just cannot say that. And I would just want to stick a pin as we're talking about good spirits.
Yeah.
To just at least show my awareness that at my good fortune, and to just acknowledge that this is not a common thing for so many people, and you're not always in a position to do something about it. But I think it is important sometimes for people to know that you're seen, even by people that you think are just going along and happy-go-lucky. But I see the world. I see the world and nonsense that is going on. And I suppose the only thing you can do is show gratitude for where you are, but empathize with where other people are. And whenever the opportunity crosses my path to be of any kind of assistance, I do. Even if it is this, because we don't know where this podcast will land. And I just thought it was necessary to say that today.
Oh, it is important. And yes, I totally agree with you. It's not that. And even, I would say this to Tariana. We read stories about people who may have been in jail, in real down situations. And they find some way to change a mood, to keep them in faith. I know it's not easy, but it all comes back to your mind being very, very strong. It comes to you having that faith that everything going to be all right, that focusing on maybe the small things that you feel could change that mood. Yes, and in certain cases, you may not be able, you can't even think.
I think if I was a Palestinian in Gaza, I would watch you and say you mad.
When I'm talking here,
yeah,
I think that's not the majority. And when we are talking also in terms of where we are and our cohort, we also have to be careful that we don't allow ourselves to go down that road of misery. Right? And to do that is to listen to some stories, find things that may be able to keep you going, and we do this, as you say, we do this as we really try to speak the positive and send out the positive vibes, hopefully to help those who are listening, who can listen, who can still tune in, to understand, yes, that it's not all a bed of roses, but let's see how we could,
Yeah. But then, there is, and I know you are eternal optimist in this respect.
Yeah.
But I feel that there are people in situations in the world for which there is no positive outcome.
Yeah.
And there is nothing in their surroundings that can cause them to have a glimmer of hope. Not
Careful.
necessarily it might be hopeless, but I think sometimes it's necessary for those people to at least know that you're seen and you're acknowledged. There are some people who are in a situation that you can pull yourself out and you could, with your mind, you can. But I think that there are just some very, very dark things going on, and people are really powerless. And the worst thing I can imagine if I'm in a situation that I'm completely powerless about is to feel that no one knows that I am here and there's just nothing. And I think I think there's so much of that we don't talk about. We just don't talk about it because it's just so.
I guess we don't talk about it. If you see a situation as being hopeless,
Mhm.
we tend to say just leave it alone and pray.
And
What it could offer is prayers.
that's the position of the person who is not in the hopeless position.
Right.
And my point is, if I take the position of the person who is in that position, I would, and I feel as though the world is blind to this, that this is unknown. I think that would be detrimental to my mindset. And that's why sometimes sometimes somebody is, and I don't mean to be macabre here, if somebody is very ill, very low on the end, you don't go and say, how you feeling? Sometimes you just sit,
That's
sit
again,
and be with. And I think that is where I was going.
again, if you feel like for me, I mean, in situations like that where I don't see the hope, we could never, and this is my take on it, we could never feel like how that person feeling. We don't know. We could just
No,
imagine,
you don't.
right?
You don't.
So it's not about trying to, the first thing is about seeing what you can do to help. And for me, especially if it seems hopeless and that person is aware that my thing is, all I could say is I'm gonna pray for you. I could hold your hand, I could pray for you. Because I believe, I really believe that it could be a miracle that you could come out of it. I guess that's always my thinking.
Yeah.
But yes, there are. What would be ideal, of course, is for all of us to get into that happy space. We know it's not ideal, but we could make, at some stage, we can get there. Average person, huh?
And for the ones who can't, I see you, notwithstanding my being in this very, very happy place. But that is just something that just came to my mind, and I thought it's necessary to, not necessary, but I wanted to share.
No, share, because we don't talk about it. And as you say, sometimes there are things
You
that is
don't
left
know who is
unsaid.
looking at you.
And there may be somebody watching on will say, yeah, they're saying that, but they don't know what situation I'm in. So yeah.
Or it's not even personal. It could be countries, it could be races, it could be regions, it could be, that kind of thing, not necessarily an individual. There's so much going on in the world that is just, we look out from where we are and we wonder, who is in the movie? Am I in the movie or are you in the movie? So, but anyway. So, Jennifer, today we are going into an interesting topic, and it's all about, what is this? Dollar savvy, personal well-being. What is it?
I wouldn't say dollar savvy. I will more say more well-being.
Being in tune.
Yeah, it's definitely being in tune. And this is because, I mean, Taryn, we chat a lot. We're all about being on the third act stage, chatting, looking for ways to solutions, guidelines, tips, whatever, to help us, all of us on this stage, to really, I don't want to say navigate, but to enjoy the stage we are on, right? So we have, of course, we always have guests coming on and we share a lot. We were thinking, okay, what else in terms of helping us, helping the tribe while we transition. And when I say while we transition, let me be careful. While we enjoy being on the third act stage. So I thought we want to know what could be a different aspect. And we thought about that's me. I just say maybe the third act time span. And why I said that, Terran, because you sent me some articles, some clips. And I listened, and all interesting, and all the things we have spoken about already. But you know what I found? That in spite of all these different ways, people, of course, the different facilitators would put it across differently. And I was wondering, what else? What next? How can we put a different spin on this? And my thing was time. How can we use time to look at our plans and our goals differently?
Yeah, I think that's a great topic. So let's get in tune. So.
Yeah.
Time.
Yeah, when I look at time, I am thinking, so I said time span. When I think of time span, it's what you could achieve and what you could do within a certain time period. And I'm not looking long term. So this is not about long-term planning and goal setting and that sort of thing. This is about what we can do, let's say short term. So this is how I'm looking at it here, short-term period, which is time. And if this is a way of looking at it, I said, okay, so we're in the third act stage, and we normally speak about the 3 stages. And we see what first stage, like the 50 to 60 is the first stage, 60 to 70, 70 to 80, not exact, but we divide it like that. And when all the different readings and talks and podcasts and everything on retirement, they will tell you in the very early stages. And we know that because we have all passed that age 50, some of us going on to the 60, the 70s, the 80. But in that very early stage, as soon as that first year or first 3 years or 2 years, I would say, of retirement, most of us, even if we weren't sure what we're going to do, when we get that check in hand, or even before, you get a sense of excitement. Oh, they have the money. You could go on your holiday, then go on. You could change your car. You could fix this. You can give whoever wanted money before the church. You get that. It's a real nice, happy and light feeling. You feel free. So you're saying, yes, I don't have to get up and go to work. I don't have any boss over me. All this. So that first phase is one of excitement. Yes, you would have set goals and make plans and say, well, yes, later on you will do X, Y, and Z. But in most cases, you focus on that early period, right? When you still have the money, and when you could still see the money, and make the plans. How I would link the time span into that is that I would look at what I would want to do, or what I would suggest, that things that you wanted to do at that stage, which may be for those a holiday, for others maybe whatever you plan to do. I think if we, they say you take things in bite size, but instead of bite size, I would say time span. You understand? So I will pull out, let's say it's vacation. I'll say, okay, what's my time span out of this period? I would say, okay, I want a whole month where, and I don't have to, when I say vacation, a whole month when I'm doing, people tell you that, huh? I want a month when I'm doing nothing. I'm getting up at any time and not, these sort of things. All I'm saying is, my interpretation for the using that time span, that period of time, is I would say that I would focus on that vacation period or whatever. I would give myself, let's say, 1 month. And you see that month, this is all. I am just focusing there and I'm happy and doing the things that make me happy. How does that differ? And I was thinking this, Sarah, how would that differ from my normal plans and going on holidays and coming back and going to something else? And when I think how it would differ, it means that when I'm focusing, if I say this month, I'm focusing on whatever is the goal. I'm just using vacation for this one, all right? It could be anything else. Vacation. So this is what I'm doing on the vacation. This is how I want to spend the vacation. So this month, this is all I'm doing. My focus will be different. I'm focusing on having a good time within that period I allocate. Whereas I feel if I don't focus on time, normally for us when we plan and we'll say, okay, we're going on vacation. But even when you're on the vacation, you're studying all the other things you had planned to do, right? You're thinking, when I come back, I'm going to do this down the road. So I see that time span as a period of time I allocate for me to be happy doing that particular activity or goal or whatever it is. That's how I look at that. And I'm using this period, the early period, because I know that early period is a period where we tend to have more, we feel freer, we feel we have more money, we're in a happy mode, we don't have to counter anybody. Because as you go further into the different stages, you may allocate time differently. You understand? And this is my little say on that time span. I don't know how you view that.
Yeah. I suppose I view time very differently.
Okay.
And the base thing is that I think we plan for retirement. And upon reaching retirement, we have a certain amount of assets. We have how much money we have, whether it's a check and a pension. We have real assets. We have a house. We have a car. We have a this. We have a that. We have a certain condition, physical. Hopefully, we would have spent the last 2 or 3 years in employment to get ourselves thoroughly checked. So we have a sense of, is there any needling little, thing with us? And so we understand where we are. And we also have, well, we may have this one wrong at retirement. what is our network and how valuable it is to us. Many of us at retirement believe that our network is associated with work, but the further away we go from that retirement date, we will realize that the work network is worthless than many, many things. So for me, the question, and I'll just say that the podcast that we were looking at is a set of retirement consultants who would typically give financial advice in terms of planning for retirement as to how you reach there. And one of the things that this person was saying is that as you go through your retirement and you go through different stages of life, your needs change radically and your relationships with others change too. So for me, having arrived at retirement, I would, if I use the language of finance, I will have a balance sheet. And the balance sheet is finite. Those assets are finite. And I have the rest of my life to use those assets together with my capabilities to have the experience of life. And I tend not to block even in days and weeks and so on, because I suppose I'm one of them who believe it could fall down anytime. So I'm not planning in that way, but I'm making sure that the way I use my time is to the best of my ability, delivers rich experiences which make me happy. And I think that is how I look at time for retirement. And Jennifer, we were chatting, and I made a comment to you that you were pretty shocked at, and because you asked me, so why you look at things like that, and I'll say this, and I mean, last week we told you all we're still waiting for your comments on our WhatsApp chat about well-being and stuff, and we're still waiting for your comments. But I said to her that, honestly, when I look across at most people who are in retirement, I don't see a lot of people who are joyful. I don't see a lot of people who are happy. I see a lot of people, and I'm talking about friends, peers, colleagues, and even as you look out and you observe how people live, I see a lot of people with a lot of worry about the future for children, grandchildren, parents, friends. I see a lot of people with concerns about how their lives will continue, whether it is changes might bring change to status, might bring change to how they live, and probably that pool that they had at the retirement time, they realize this thing can't stretch as much. So I see a lot of people worrying and making decisions about how they use their assets and how they use their capabilities, not with a focus on personal joy, but with a purpose of still fixing and sorting out everybody and everything outside of themselves. And I think that results in us, many people in our cohort, being very stressed, which leads to illness, which I think at the end of the day, if I come back to your time span, if you had 5 years, you probably could only function properly in 2, because the next 3 could be riddled with the consequences of your stressful life. So I focus on the experience.
No, I hear you. And I am saying with this, as you know, we are looking at a different aspect. We know we know the traditional ones, and we know what people follow. But what I thought with the time span instead of, I believe many people who, as you say, don't appear to be joyful and seem to be stressed and worried and complaining, is because they set these goals, or they don't set any goals, but they're looking at a broader picture. They saw retirement, however they had planned it, but they saw retirement as a period, like the third act stage, as a period where they will be going along just happily, not working, and just going along doing things that they love without much effort. This is what I get, which is not the reality, right? Which is not the reality. So, because if you approach retirement like that, looking at it in this nice, happy way where you don't have to do much, and the reality is different, then yes, you will worry, all that, especially if you had set your goals and make plans not in a realistic manner. Right? Because you started not realizing, as you said, what your assets are, what all those things. You didn't do that pre-retirement. But what I'm looking at, what I am thinking, if for those who really find themselves that they didn't achieve whatever plans or goals and getting frustrated and miserable and worrying, if they maybe refocus, so this is where the time span comes in. So you're not looking at this broad picture of you on the stage, moving along, happy on the stage, and then you panic because you're not doing that. Then focus on you. Of course, you have to decide what making you happy and giving you joy. Yeah, if you don't know that, you have a problem. And if what making you happy and giving you joy is outside of your control, that's another problem, right? Let's face it. So if what giving you joy or would give you joy, make you happy, is when the grandchildren do well, or the children get their own thing, or who get the job, or who get the house, and who get all that, hey, and that is not in your control. So if you want to be happy, I am thinking, look at your personal happiness. If your happiness is that, well, then go along and focus on that and find a time span for that. So, all right, so let's look at it. The broader picture for you, I think though, Terry-Ann, if I may say that, from all the programs we have done, transition, retirement, all these shows, I think basically if you have a questionnaire and you question people who's now entering the third act stage or on the third act stage and whatever, at whatever point, I think most people want to be happy and doing things stress-free. I would like to think so. I could be wrong, but I would like to think so. Why would you not want to be happy during your retirement? That's my thing. Okay. So if I'm correct, then focus on you now. Focus on that time span and going back to it. Pull out the goals that will make you happy. And it's like doing short term, but you're doing the short term, from what I'm seeing, within the a certain time. So that time, you're focusing on that goal. So if even the goal is for the grands or the children, then say, you see me, this is their time then. Not my whole, not right through. This is their time. Their time for me, maybe in my first phase when I am healthier, when I can think clearly, when my cash flow is better, this may be your time. After that, I'm done with you. You know? So I don't have to go through the rest worrying. I did my part. This is it. I would have achieved that with you. My time done. Let me look at my time now. So I can't be going through each phase. So I finished 50 to 60. I'm reaching 60 to 70, and I'm still worrying. Oh gosh, man, Terria. And I think that is what happened to us. That is what happened to us.
As we discussed, and that is the thing. And I think because you said most people entering want to be, and you cannot imagine that anyone would not want to be. I absolutely agree with you. You want to be.
Yeah.
But there are few of us that take steps to effect that desire, because something called conscience and guilt and emotion and obligation and a set of shuns come in the way that just stops you from, you see that thing you say, do and cut it. And I'll make the point like this. You know, you look at how many of us, the kinds of decisions that we make. Jennifer, a decision is a hard thing. It is a final thing. If I am making a decision, it means I have a range of options. Say I have option 1, option 2, option 3, option 4. Making a decision means that there is no mix 1 and 2. Option 3 could be a combo. Option 1 is absolute, option 2 is absolute, option 3 and 4 could be combos. But you have to choose one to be done at a point in time. Because if it is done then, yes, you might go through a period of stress or whatever it is, but in the longer term, whatever that term may be, this is going to be better for you in the long term, given where you are. And I really do believe that a lot of us find ourselves in difficulty during retirement because at the point where we have to make a decision, if I choose option 1, then it means that the consequences of whatever option 1 precludes may affect people that I love, that care for me, or whatever it is. And any option I choose, somebody going to get will not be chosen. And I'm going to say hurt will not be chosen. But I have to choose one. And I am at my retirement. I have worked for 30, 40, 50 years. I have accumulated. I have provided for children. I've provided for parents. I've provided for everybody. And now, you know, they say when you're working, you're accumulating. And when you retire, you begin to consume based on what you accumulated. So now I'm at my point where, having done all this, built foundations, set everybody up, whether you're educated, you're healthy, you're connected, you're whatever it is. I am ready to enjoy, but my decision for my happiness, because you're still living with me, you're still dependent on me, you're still connected to me, may cause someone I love some inconvenience. So I don't choose the option that is best for me. I compromise. And I choose the option that keeps me in that building mode and does not allow me to fully go into my, we call it consumption, relaxation mode, where I could enjoy the fruits of my labor. And I think part of the reasons that we we do not make decisions that we know are in our best interest, long, short, or medium term, is because we're afraid of the consequences of focusing on our happiness. We're afraid of who may have to do without if we make ourselves very happy. And I think because we keep either putting off a decision, compromising on decisions, many of us go through the time spans of retirement not optimally joyful and not optimally happy, and always having to compromise. You feel as though you're still back in the day when you can't really have what you want, but you're struggling. And my position for myself, and why I said that I am a happy woman, is because I am not afraid to be selfish about me. And I think many people would call that first, but she full of herself.
Now about to say
Oh,
self-centered.
she's self-centered. I say selfish, I call you selfish about me. Yes, self-centered. She not humble. She who she feels she is, who she so when you are in your latter stage, having done a lifetime of work, and you decide, or you don't decide, you know that the best option for me and my happiness now is this. Now, I'm not saying that my option is going to cause grievous harm to anybody, yeah? But it will inconvenience people. A lot of us, I see a lot of our peers, a lot of my friends making decisions that continually compromise our happiness. And I question that that is a good use of time, a resource that we do not know how much we have. So how long can we delay? And we just keep choosing options, making decisions that are not the best, and we can't fully say, I am happy. Not a lot can say, I am happy. And I think that is a sad thing.
Yeah, but Tarian, traditionally, in retirement planning, first thing you talk about is goals, right? That you set goals, and you set goals so when you retire, because when you retire, you're not working again. Yeah, you have three main issues you talk about, and you spoke about, you touched on it. You deal with the financial aspect, we deal with the health aspect, we deal with later on in terms of legacy and how long you're going to, your lifespan, etc. And when those three key areas, it's just stuck in everybody's head when they go along. So as a result, many people tell you, and you know that when we do the retirement planning, they're scared. Nobody want to set goals because they say they don't ever achieve the goals when they set it, right? You don't want to talk about finances because you don't have enough money to plan, etc., etc. So you enter the different phases, especially when you enter the first phase with that mentality of you're not really doing the type of introspection and assessment of your situation prior to. You're just going in, what do you say? You're diving in, knowing that, hey, I'm going to make it. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And as I said before, you're not stopping to think that it just don't work so. Life, in life, even when they're in the workplace, it just don't work so. I am going back to, and the only reason that we decided to put a slant on this using the time period is because we don't ever focus on the time period too much, because time is something when you retire, you don't want to focus on because you feel it could mean you could die anytime. You know, time is linked to like lifespan.
Yeah, it is. Yes, it is.
And as long, remember, we're in retirement, so anytime they thought time, they say, oh God, they don't even want to hear about that because you're telling me my lifespan could be 80, and that is just that sort of thing. So I understand the negative in terms of using time, but there's a positive aspect to it. And what, to me, what looking at the time does to you, Terry-Ann, is really make you focus on you, actually. This is how I look at it. And when you talk to, like right now, I'm in the 70 stage, and I talk to my friends who going down, a little older than me, going into 80. Listen to me. Now they realize that, oh gosh, time's short, right? And because time's short, guess what they're focusing on? They quickly start to think of themselves. Not so much all the things, they think about themselves. They're thinking about suddenly about their health, but want to do all the things now that you should have focused on earlier. So I am seeing that thinking, using time in this situation as a way for us to focus on the things that we love to do for us. And if we do that, we should try, for those who see everything on the outside as their main way to focus. Many things not in our control, but we're focusing on that. Because you said it, so we may be you said it earlier, we may be a bit scared to focus on us. Why? Because if I say, this is my time, this is my time, let me tell you that, right? This is my time. And if this is my time with my limited resources, if I focus on my time now on legacy building and all that, I wouldn't be happy, because to me, I would look back and say, I should have had this. I didn't have this. I don't have enough, because we never have enough, right? So that wouldn't make me happy, Terry-Ann. But when I focus on the time and I say, this is my time, not focusing on legacy or anything, what would I want to do with this time that I have? It all comes back to me. So as we go in now, so we cross the early stages where we're happy and spending and moving along and figuring the rest of our lives will be like that. From the time we go into I will say the phase of the 60s, and the reality hit us now, and the traditional aspect of the planning will tell you about the health and all the things that you have to look at as you get older. The panic steps in, because if your plan is to be happy and doing all the good things, and you compromise your health earlier, then you have to deal with that, then you can't be happy, Terry-Ann. So, again, the time, if in the earlies we said, okay, with time we happy, that's the time for the happiness. You see, this time I focus in on what I have to do for my health. I say, okay, this period between whatever to whatever, all I focus in on is what I have to do to maintain good health, etc., etc., etc. It comes back to me. And then when you move on, so by the time you reach in the next phase, you should have all that Your health situation should be under control. Let me put it that way. That's how I keep linking back the time that we don't want to deal with because we fear it means it will shorten our lifespan. If we check it out, it may extend it and not shorten it.
Yeah. I suppose it is a matter of perspective. That,
Yeah.
to me, is a very transactional approach to life. And I know a lot of people approach life in that way.
Yeah.
Where it's stick. It's this has to be dealt with, this has to be dealt with, this has to be dealt with. But I fundamentally believe that I have no idea how much time is left. So the transactions are not as critical to me. And this might sound a little reckless. But you know, I firmly believe that whoever going to kill me inside of me already. So I'm not aware of it as yet, but if I'm to be knocked down by a bus or being a sudden death, then that's how it is. But if there is illness, it is there already. It is not discovered as yet as it is coming. And I have no clue when it is coming. So I am less interested in the transactions of life. I will put things in place to make sure that I can be as healthy as possible. I have my resources, my financial resources managed as reasonably as possible. And that, okay, I have a place to live and my basics, Maslow hierarchy, my basics are dealt with. And I believe that at the end of the day now, and another thing is that I am assured that I have done my best by those that I love, and they are in a good position within the confines of their abilities to go forward. So with that in mind, I have no problem being selfish, self-centered, and focused on experiences every single day that will bring me joy because I do not know which day is the last.
But Tarian, when you look at it, from what you're saying, for you to reach this stage and be comfortable within yourself, because as you said, you would have done all that you could have and happy with doing for your loved ones, right? But would you say you would have spent time focusing there to bring yourself to this stage?
Yeah, that is what was happening on the second act.
Okay, so you would, all right.
And I have put a number to nothing.
No, without putting a number, that's okay. Without putting a number.
Because, and it can only be done on the second act, because unless I plan to work like a mule in my third act, as I did on my second act, to continue accumulating resources, that's not part of my plan. Even if I continue working, it cannot be at that intensity and level. I'll die.
Right. So you consciously in that second stage, knowing that, okay, I would put things in place. I will spend that time to do that because I know moving forward.
I wouldn't state it like that. I wouldn't state it like that.
How would you state it?
I think that is a hindsight view of it. Because I went through my second stage, working, doing things. Yes, you put stuff in place. Yes, you were conscious of saving and stuff. But that statement is too clinical for me.
No, how would you put it? That's okay.
Whatever I did on my second stage.
I tend to be very transactional.
Whatever I did on my second stage, where I land up when I retire, the result that was in front of me, the level of the pension, the level of the savings, whether the house is rented, paid for or not paid for, whether the car new, old or indifferent, wherever I ended up at that time is what I have to work with. And I have to say that it represented the best transaction I could have negotiated then. So for me, that's the end of transactions, because I don't have the energy, the physical capacity, the mental and emotional capacity to work like that, to continue building. I don't have it. So I have to accept that this is probably 90% of what is going to take me and my loved ones into the future. But a part of the assets that I have are intangible assets. It's not only the money in the bank, the house, the car, the whatever it is. I would have educated children. I would have set an example of sacrifice, of how to get things done. I would have raised them in a certain way. And however I raise them, whether I spoil them like they're rotten or whatever it is, this is where I am. This is where
So,
I am.
so let me go back. Two things I want to focus on from what you say. One is that we can't go back at the stages.
Oh, you can't.
Right?
No.
So as we move from one stage to the next, the fact is when you're on that stage, you accept the stage you are at, you accept the state you are in.
Yep.
Whatever it is. Whether you figure they should have had more money. Whatever. This is where I am. So if this is where I am, you're moving forward, yes. Then you decide, what do I want on this stage? This is what I'm looking at. What do I want? Here am I, right? I reach. Mm-hmm. This is what I have. Okay, what do I want to do with what I have? Let's be realistic of it with this. But where I see the worry and the unhappiness comes in is because you may not be satisfied with
you are putting prescriptions on.
No, I'm not doing this. Is not your person. This is not you. I'm off of your personal situation. I understand your personal situation. I congratulate you for your personal situation. I just putting it in a context for others who may be listening who nowhere near your context.
All right, wait. No. I think, let me finish. I am not saying, I am happy because I am where I am.
Right.
And I could have no money. I could have plenty money. I am happy where I am because I accept where I am. And that's the point that I am making.
And that's the first point I just made. You have to accept where you are. Yeah.
My second issue, why I think we see a lot, and I am absolutely certain that as we go on to this stage, money is off the table. Because what I am saying is applicable to rich, to poor, to indifferent, to renters, to homeless, to everybody. Mm-hmm. A lot of us are going into retirement, living this life not for ourselves, not with a clear view of the experience I want to have. We're still thinking of the things we need to do, the list of things we need to do. And because we're in the habit of taking care of people, that list never has us at the center. But in my way of looking at life, the way I stop myself from things to do that are often, because there's very little for me to do for myself. I really don't have a lot of wants and needs again in terms of things, but the experiences I want to have, things that I didn't have time to do, things that now with all my skills and talents, I can create, I can do. There are not many people that will decide to make decisions to follow their dreams, because doing that would leave many behind. And in their view, they will be seen as selfish, as callous, as how she had so hard, how she could do the child that, how she could do the father that, how she could do the mother that, and all those things, as though you're either black or white, you're either bad like yours or like a saint. And there's no compromise in the middle that allows us to take some time for well-deserved happiness, you know? And I want to make a point, and it is the thing that I was telling you about. I was listening to a podcast, a Travel Noah podcast with Eugene Kosa, and they were talking about the difference between pain and suffering. And I think this is the thing that brings it clearly into my head. And it all revolves around how we make decisions. Decisions are painful. They are painful because pain is a short-term thing. It is physical and it is emotional. It comes immediately because something has happened. Something has happened. But as they say, it is often immediate, it is localized, and it diminishes over time. And many decisions you make have to be painful, like telling a child, no, I'm using my resources to do this for me, not you. Or like telling a spouse, no. Or like telling a parent, no. And it might not be that, you see, we phrase it and I'm telling somebody no. But I phrase it and I'm telling myself yes. And the yes to me means you wait or no. Or yes, we can do both. But we are so afraid of pain, dealing with that uncomfortable discussion of denying somebody something to give something to ourselves. It's not just the denying of somebody, but to give something to ourselves that we delay. And you know what we end up in? Something that is worse than pain, suffering. Suffering is not a physical thing. It is psychological. It is long-lasting. It is pervasive. And you're just there. And you're in a position of not having what your preference is, having to do without. And very, very often, the thing that makes the suffering worse is the person that you are continuing to sacrifice for is indifferent to both your pain and your suffering. And that's why a lot of us may not be as happy at any time in their retirement. And I want to bring it out because every decision doesn't have to be about you. But if you make a decision that this decision is about me and my happiness, and you, adult, have to understand, step aside, I'm taking care of me now. When I come back on the other side of the decision, I'll continue to be here with you. But so many of us refuse to tolerate some temporary pain in others to give ourselves satisfaction. And we end up with a kind of latent undertone of suffering through our lives. We will go around the place and we'll be laughing and stuff like that, you know. But the true joy is not there because there's always a back current of a suffering issue. And I think if we allow people to endure some pain for us to have a better experience, everybody would suffer less. I think that's how I look at time and moving forward.
Let me go back again, Terry, and my thing, and I going on, as I said, I'm more on the transactional side. I'm moving into normally what we call the second phase of this third act stage, which is between the 60 to 70. And to me, you talk about the pain and the suffering and whatever. I think if during that period is where I think most people experience that kind of pain and thing, because then is when the reality faces you. You realize, you may look back with regret, etc., because you realize that what your expectations has been met, all these things that you thought that you would have done then, or the state of mind or the happiness isn't what you haven't achieved what you wanted to. So you get all the regret and everything at that stage. But you can bounce back from it. But to do that, again, is to refocus. And yes, we have many different solutions to all that. We have gone through all that. I am sticking to the time span here. And I believe when you're within that stage, that 60 to 70 stage, and you're going through that period of regret, of pain, of suffering, and you may be blaming yourselves, and others may be disappointed in you, because people bold-faced, huh? They know your weak areas and they tend to play on it, right? And I would say this is where we have to be careful. And if we put a time frame, if we ask ourselves exactly what now, we're moving forward. It's not, you're not going back in this thing, with the time, you're moving forward with time, right? We're not going back to the past period. And you really ask yourself, what would make you happy at this stage? You have to find the part to give you joy. You may think there is none, but you could focus. And when you get that, you say, you know what? This period, this is what I'm focusing on. I cannot concentrate on the things that give me pain. No, I am suffering, I'm in pain because of X, Y, and Z, so I'm not focusing there. This aspect is where I find joy for this period at least. This is the thing I'm focusing on. And it's like having tunnel vision, right? On that particular aspect. This is how I'm looking at it. Right? This is just me sharing my views on this using the time span. I believe when you're focusing on that aspect that gives you joy, and you forget, or not forget, you just put aside that aspect that the
you decide, you make a decision to be
many times. You make that decision. Many times when you try with that pain point and you try to work it out, it have no solution to that. It's just causing you more grief. You know, I used to say, giving you more grief. And I don't know why we tend to keep going down the road with the grief.
You make a decision to do what needs to be done to stop. You end up suffering. Suffering.
Terry-Ann said something there that we in the pain because we feel that being in the pain would satisfy whoever we want to please.
You're looking for attention too.
Right?
Not satisfy them, or you're looking for attention.
But if we refocus and we leave that alone and make that decision, and you may say it's a selfish decision, but whatever, to focus on the aspect that give you joy during that period, I think it should help. This is just me. And again, this is us moving into the different stages and using, looking at ways. Some people will say, listen, I don't set goals or do nothing. I'm just going along. Nothing wrong with going along, you know, but it's the road you're taking when you're going along.
I know.
Right? You're going along, but you're complaining. You're going along, but you're not happy.
You're suffering. That's called suffering.
So go along. For those who, there are many people, you go along and they're happy going along. But guess what? You know why they're happy going along? Because they're doing the things and they're focusing on the things that giving them joy. They're not happy going along because they're in pain. Take it from me. They're not in pain. So that's what I will say, being on that stage, because I really believe that 60 to 70 stage is a rough one if you don't know how to navigate it well, and if you allow yourself if you don't want to make a decision. There's tough decisions.
I think
You
that's
don't want
it. If you don't
decision.
want to make a decision, if you don't want
Yeah.
to make a choice between what you know is good for you and wanting to continue to please other people, and you can't
Right.
do. And you continually do that. Sometimes you may compromise, but if you continually deny yourself and you continually choose to nurture and carry others, you in for suffering.
So carve out that time for you or for whatever making you happy. Whatever, we not, because everybody different. I may say this is me. You may think if your grandchildren happy or whoever it is happy or your spouse happy and you want to make them happy within your time and that giving you joy, go right ahead.
Whatever. It's whatever makes you
Not that
happy.
it's not my way.
Yeah.
Have to be your way. No. But I'm just saying, don't go down the road that giving you pain now.
Yeah. I think the clear decision is you decide what you want to do. And if you want to live your life for other people's happiness and you are truly happy doing that, you are good.
Yeah.
You are good. But it is when you keep making decisions that compromise what you want for you to satisfy others, especially when they are insensitive to the sacrifice that you are making, then you putting up yourself for pure suffering as you're going along. And that cannot make you joyful.
So that's the decision. Anytime you start feeling pain and unhappiness and then switch. All right?
And the pain can't order you to suffering. But
Put a little time span. Switch and say, hey, this time I do it. Let me just touch on the last phase, which is where I really feel time comes in. And this is the 70 to 80 time period. So this is where we realize, hey boy, I don't have much time. Not much time left. And you see the little time I have, guess what? I dealing with this is real serious thing now. This is where I'm praying for God for this, and I want peace, I want happiness, all the things that I thought I would have had on all the stages. If I didn't have it then, or if you didn't have it then, you would want it now. The question is, do you want to wait until then? Or do you want to have that nice, happy, joyful life throughout? So basically, Terry-Ann, that's it with me, looking at a new aspect of the transition stage, which is the lifespan, your time span, sorry. Yeah.
Definitely. So we hope you enjoyed it. I say, have a great experience no matter what stage you're on. You do not know how much time you have.
Yep.
So it doesn't matter. You could be 98. You focus on your experience. So we will see you all next week for another interesting discussion. Bye.
Bye.
50 Plus Tribe and follow us from Trinidad and Tobago and the Caribbean.
Thank you for joining us on this Connections 50 Plus 5.8G Alive show.
We hope you enjoyed the lively conversation and look forward to seeing you next week.
Don't forget to like our Facebook page and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
We really love getting your feedback. Bye for now.